All right, back at it again. All right, seeing a place to be. Ric Serritella here on this Tuesday, September 30th, 2025, our 30th edition of the All Access Football Daily Show. And what you just saw was our new and blue intro. I forgot to switch it up this morning. We did broadcast live like we do each and every Monday here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter every Monday night. The New and Blue, a New York Giants podcast, 7 p.m. Eastern with my co-host, Dan Orlando. You can check it over on the archives. Broke it all down, dedicated to your New York Football Giants. We are broadcasting live from the confines of the Jersey Shore around the football universe because that's what we do here. We are your home for real football talk, and we're going to get it all in today. We're talking about NFL, NCAA, NFL draft. We're even going to get over up north to the Canadian Football League, and later on in the show, we're going to shine the spotlight on the Indoor Football League, which I believe is the premier indoor football league in all of the globe. And to do that is going to be our special guest, good friend of the show, Evan Wilsmore will join us, the Las Vegas Nighthawks director of player personnel, coming up at 10:40 a.m. Eastern. Okay, we've got a jam-packed week for you, so buckle up, hunker down. Tomorrow, legendary Howard Balzer joins us each and every Wednesday, celebrating 50 years of covering the NFL, a Pro Football Hall of Fame voter. We'll get into some Pro Football Hall of Fame debate. You guys seem to enjoy that. We'll do that on tomorrow's show. Thursday, we've got Ben Devine, Chicago Bears insider, making his all-access football debut. We're going to check in with Ben and gauge the temperature there with the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson and his press conferences. Caleb Williams starting to heat up. The Bears on a bye this week, as is the Green Bay Packers. So on Friday, it'll be a Football Friday affair with our guy Jason B. Hirschbarn, the AP award-winning writer, also publishes The Leap over on Substack. So check him out. Of course, allaccessfootball.com, part of the Substack family over there. Saturday's our college football pregame show with our residential scout, Russell Landy, former NFL, XFL, CFL scout, joins us each and every Saturday for the college football pregame show with an NFL draft slant. He missed last week's edition. He was over there in London. I spoke to Russ just this morning. He will be on this Saturday show. And, of course, Sunday is our NFL Pick'em pregame show. We went 1-1 last night on the Monday Night Football action. That brings our record to date holding steady against the spread, 38-26 now through 4 weeks of the NFL season. We pick every single game against the spread. We're holding strong, 12 games above 500. Not too shabby here on the All Access Football Daily Show. I am your host, Ric Serritella, by the way, in case I didn't tell you. Now you know who said it. And we'll start off in the Monday Night Football. And unfortunately, just a gruesome scene there in the Miami Dolphins, New York Jets affair. Of course, the Dolphins coming out on top 27-21 to get their first dub of the season. The Jets remain winless. You can change the head coaches, you can change the starting quarterback, but the Jets are going to be the same old Jets, and we'll get to that in just a second. But more on this Tyreek Hill injury, which honestly, I think it may be the most gruesome hit I've ever seen in my life. And usually I'm a glutton for punishment. This one, I don't want to see it again. I saw it once. That's all I want to see. This is about as nasty and ugly as he broke his leg. Tore his ACL, torn ligaments. They're saying now that the bone actually ripped through, not just the skin. The bone was ripped through the uniform, and you saw it turned like a pretzel. Really just nasty, ugly stuff. And the cheetah, I think, is going to be 31 years old. He was already talking about a retirement a couple years ago. Clearly, he wanted out of Miami. Weird reaction. I think it was just the adrenaline flowing through his body, trying to come across as if he was okay. He was anything but that. But you saw him smiling, clapping, saying yes. Maybe he was happy that his Dolphins career is over. But, I mean, unfortunately, his pro football career may be over. I don't think at 31, even if you bounce back, he'll never be anything close to what he was. And he did catch all 6 of his targets before that gruesome injury, 6 catches for 67 yards. Story of the night, I guess, was, well, there was 2. On the Miami side, it was Darren Waller, fresh out of retirement, dusting off the mothballs. I guess his rap career didn't work out. Last time we saw him was back in 2023 with the New York Giants. And after 2 years of a failed rap career, he's now back in Miami, and he had 2 touchdowns there last night, big touchdown scores. The A chain got going, 20 carries for 99 yards and a touchdown. And, the other storyline, I think, on the Jets side is just the mistakes, the turnovers, the special teams. I mean, where do you want to begin? Braylon Allen with a huge, costly fumble there to start the game, driving down on the goal line. And it's incredible when you think about it. These Jets now have fumbled the ball 8 times through 4 games, have lost 6 of those fumbles, and they have yet to recover a fumble on defense. And when you lose the turnover battle, you lose in the National Football League. And I saw Sauce Gardner complaining after the game, and we don't get the calls because we don't win. Well, it's pretty simple to fix that, Sauce. Start winning some ball games, would you? Then you won't be dealing with these issues. But, Aaron Glenn wanted to make an example out of Xavier Gipson, the rookie head coach, trying to make a statement there because Gipson fumbled in week 1 on the kick return. Well, what are you going to do to this guy? And somebody made a good point. Who's scouting the kick returners over there for Gang Green? Because you saw a slew of mistakes on special teams. And quite frankly, that is what gets you cut in the National Football League. You cut a pretty good return man. You downgraded him now. You went backwards. And it just seems like the Jets' whole offseason went backwards. And Justin Fields, I mean, I hate to say, we keep waiting for this guy to take the next step, but I don't see the development in his passing. And, he was efficient. He passed for 226 yards, but he really needs to make plays with his legs to have any kind of success. And that's okay if you could throw the ball effectively and be a threat in the passing game. I just don't know if Justin Fields really, through this first 4-game experiment, the 1-year, $20 million deal, I think the Jets will be in the market for a quarterback once again. And, fortunately, I guess they're going to have one of the worst records, so they'll have a shot at a quarterback. Unfortunately, we talked about it on yesterday's show. I'm not so sure how good this quarterback class really is. So here we go again with the New York Jets and everybody frustrated. Garrett Wilson there on the sidelines, frustrated. He had 6 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown, but I don't know where the Jets go from here. They're 0-4, and Aaron Glenn is taking some lumps, isn't he? We'll see if they can turn it around. Mike McDaniels now, with a strong moral victory last week, an actual victory this week, he survives another week, and we'll see 2 coaches on the hot seat here early on in the NFL season. But this is AFC East now. Jets are in the basement, digging a hole, digging them way out, and I don't think they're going to get out of this hole. And they're right down there with the Saints in terms of being one of the worst franchises in the National Football League. Over on the other Monday Night Football game, we had the Jets. I'll never pick them again. So we lost that one. We were on the money with the Denver Broncos, who won 28-3 in the second game of that Monday Night Football doubleheader affair. And Bo Nix played very well. Jake Browning, not so much. And, you wonder now, this game was over before it even started. Quite frankly, the Bengals were never in. Well, they were up 3-0, and that was all she wrote for the Cincinnati Bengals. J.K. Dobbins with 101 yards rushing. Cortland Sutton with a big touchdown, 81 yards rushing. You saw R.J. Harvey. I think that was his first touchdown of the season, the rookie out of UCF, who could see his role increase as the season goes on. But if you're the Cincinnati Bengals now, sitting here at 2-2, you were 2-0. Now you're 2-2. Denver also 2-2. But you wonder now, do the Cincinnati Bengals make some kind of play for a quarterback, whether it be Russell Wilson, dare I say Kirk Cousins? There's some talk that maybe Atlanta would be willing to eat some of the Kirk Cousins contract to make it more affordable to trade. And I don't know, if I'm Cincinnati and I can get Cousins for like a 2nd-round pick, I would consider that just to save your season. You hope Joe Burrow can come back, but if you can get Cousins to get you through the regular season, I think that would clearly be an upgrade over Jake Browning. Russell Wilson, I don't know how much of an upgrade that is, and I really wouldn't give up anything more than a day 3 selection for Russell Wilson, because you pick your poison. Russ, Browning, I don't think it's really going to matter. You're going to lose ball games. At least Kirk Cousins, another year healed off of that injury, maybe it can give you something. We'll see what the Cincinnati Bengals decide to do moving forward here, because they are going nowhere fast. All right. Ric Serritella here on the All Access Football Daily Show. We're live 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to have some good giveaways later on in the show, so stay tuned for that. We're going to tell you how to win some prizes here, play games, win prizes on the All Access Football Daily Show. We've got some sponsors coming on board. I'm just working my way, trying to organize it all, so we'll get to it throughout the week. And we got a lot to get to on this show. Of course, next segment, we're going to take a look at some of the CFL news and notes. We got Indoor Football League Director of Personnel for the Vegas Nighthawks, Evan Wilsmore, coming up at 10:40 a.m., but there are some other news and notes going on in the National Football League that I want to get to. And I told you we did the New and Blue podcast last night with my co-host Dan Orlando. The Giants, obviously they're riding high. The big win, Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, Abdul Carter, all these young rookies contributing in a very big way. A lot of young core players, Theo Johnson, the tight end, being one of them, Marcus Bowe, the offensive tackle, being another. The Giants suddenly do have some young building blocks to build around, but it comes in waves. And unfortunately, again, more bad news coming out of the Meadowlands. One, the owner there, John Mara, Giants releasing a statement that John Mara undergoing treatment for cancer. So we definitely will send positive vibes and all of our prayers towards the Mara family, the New York Giants family. Of course, his father, Wellington Mara, a Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee. And, I saw O.C. Umenor share a story about when he was injured and he was in the hospital. He was laying there in his bed. He said just one person from the whole organization came to visit him, and that was John Mara. And O.C. said he just started crying, and Mara just sat there, didn't say a word, just sat in the room until O.C. fell asleep and he was gone. But that's the kind of character in terms of John Mara, the person. You can debate about how good he is as an owner, but a high character, top-notch individual. And we'll be thinking about John Mara. Also, Malik Neighbors, that ACL was confirmed yesterday. He's going to be out for the year. And now you wonder what the Giants do at the wide receiver position, because Darius Slayton, Wendell Robinson, they're only going to get you so far. Another rookie, Bo Collins, undrafted, is another one from Notre Dame who is going to have a larger role now. But maybe they elevate little Jordan Humphrey. Clearly they need a boundary outside receiver. Odell Beckham Jr. was hanging out in the facility a couple weeks ago. Could he be somebody they kick the tires on? It's not too crazy to think. Isaiah Hodgins is a guy that makes sense. He's hanging out on the Cleveland Browns roster, practice squad, that is. And Hodgins was a third-round pick by Joe Shane when he was back in Buffalo. That could be a familiar face, although I don't think Hodgins is really an upgrade over little Jordan Humphrey or Bo Collins. Odell Beckham Jr., he might be able to give you 15, 20 reps. Supposedly he's in very good shape. No stranger to New York. Might even jolt the fan base a little bit. So we'll see what the Giants do at the wide receiver position. That's your daily. It seems like there's daily news coming out of the Meadowlands. That's your daily Giants update. A couple other situations around the league. How about the A.J. Brown drama? He's never happy when the ball doesn't go his way. Nick Sirianni asked about it yesterday, said A.J. Brown wants to remain an Eagle. He had to talk to him. A.J. Brown posts these cryptic messages on social media when he doesn't get the ball thrown his way. And both him and Devonta Smith were clearly ticked off post-game. You saw the Eagles players go into the locker room, everybody in jubilation and joy and celebrating, except for Brown and Smith, who just kind of walked back to the locker room, head down, pissed off, mean mugging. And, hey, give Sirianni credit. He handles big personalities as good as any head coach in the National Football League. A lot of big personalities coming in and out of that Philadelphia locker room over the past several years, A.J. Brown being one of them. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. Over out west, Brock Purdy, I guess, had a setback with the toe injury, and he was struggling last week. I heard that Mac Jones, if he was actually clear, because Mac Jones also banged up. If Mac Jones was healthy, he would have probably got the start because Purdy wasn't 100%. So Purdy starts, and now he has a toe setback, and we'll see. Will it be Purdy? Will it be Mac Jones? Will it be Adrian Martinez that starts for the 49ers this week? It's early in the week. We'll see. We continue to monitor the Lamar Jackson hamstring injury. Will he be available? The Ravens at 1-3, they're all banged up. Derrick Henry, we've talked about the fumbling woes. Matt Abuke, the defensive tackle, now we thought he was going to be out several weeks. He's actually going to miss the entire season. So huge loss in the middle of that defensive line. And Roquan Smith, also with the hamstring, is not expected to play this week. So the Ravens are busted, bruised, and broken. One of my Super Bowl predictions. What were you thinking, Rick? Maybe there's still time to turn it around, but this Baltimore Ravens team has just been dealt with a bad deck of cards here in the 2025 season early on. Trayvon Walker, we just heaped so much praise on him on Sunday's show for how well he was playing. He now has a wrist injury. He's going to see a specialist about that. And then a couple of positive notes. How about that? Matthew Stafford, we failed to mention this on yesterday's show, but he actually led the Rams to his 50th career game-winning drive. Once upon a time, these things used to be called fourth quarter comebacks. And John Elway and Joe Montana, they were the master of fourth quarter comebacks. Somewhere along the way, they switched over to just game-winning drives. So it doesn't necessarily they took it a step further, where fourth quarter comeback, you were trailing. Game-winning drive just means you went up on the last score of the game, or it could be tie and you led your team to a victory. But still, nevertheless, 50 career game-winning drives. I mean, that's over 3 seasons worth of just game-winning drives alone for Matthew Stafford. Now, he only trails Drew Brees and Ben Roethlisberger, who have 53 apiece, Peyton Manning, who has 54, and then, of course, Tom Brady with 58. So Stafford in a pretty good category there when it comes to game-winning drives. I think Stafford's going to be looked at long and hard when it's time for the Hall of Fame call. And we've talked about the logjam now with Drew Brees being eligible, Phillip Rivers now eligible, Eli Manning didn't even make it as a finalist last year, and then Big Ben Roethlisberger will be eligible as well. So there's going to be a logjam at the wide receiver position. At the quarterback position tomorrow. Howard Balzer and myself are going to talk about the wide receiver logjam currently, with players knocking on the Hall's door. So great conversation on deck for tomorrow. And then the other thing I saw was, Ashton Jeanty has reverted back to his upright stance. Chip Kelly giving him the go there. They tried to make him a more traditional running back in terms of his pre-snap stance and being in the crouch, but he went back to standing up, and it resulted in 21 carries for $138, by far his most impressive performance of the rookie campaign there for Ashton Jeanty. So there's your NFL news and notes. Now, when we come back after the commercial break, we're actually going to take a look at the NFL rookie report a month into the season. We're going to highlight who some of the top rookie players are. I also have a list of the fastest players in the NFL. If you're interested to know who are the fastest players, we're talking about in-game speed, courtesy of Next Gen Stats. I'm going to tell you that after the commercial break. And also the Canadian Football League heating up down the stretch they come, the regular season winding down. We'll take a look at the top storylines in the Canadian Football League. And, of course, coming up in about 20 minutes, special guest, good friend of the show, Evan Wilsmore, who's the director of player personnel for the Vegas Nighthawks of the Indoor Football League, who won that Indoor Football League championship 64-61. What a game it was. We'll recap that and talk more about the Indoor Football League with Evan Wilsmore coming up at 10:40 a.m. Eastern time. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break, maybe give some things away when we come back, and buckle up, hunker down. It's the All Access. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world-famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world-famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Ric Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. All right, back at it again. All right, seeing a place to be. Ric Serritella here. You out there in the football universe. It's the All Access Football Daily Show. We're live each and every day, 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. It is your home for real football talk. And I don't know where else around the football universe you're going to get NFL, college football, NFL draft, Canadian football, indoor football with our guest coming up at 10:40 in about 15 minutes, Evan Wilsmore. Will be joining us. And it's always great to see people in the chat room, especially Adams Exploits, longtime listener. Always great to see him. Jason Avant said it looked like AJ out on a couple of routes. Okay. Let me get a little clarification on that, Adam. But, AJ Brown, we try to keep tabs with the Eagles. It's not like the football playbook show over here, Adam, where I'm talking Eagles all show long, but we do appreciate you tuning in, man. Good to see you. I hope all is well. And we appreciate all the love and support. AJ quit on a couple of routes. Well, that's interesting. We'll have to go back to the videotape. That's very uncharacteristic because 2 weeks ago, he just took over that fourth quarter with some monster catches. And, the psyche of one A.J. Brown is a complicated situation. I did hear Seth Joyner talking about it and saying, A.J. Brown is out here publicly preaching his faith. Well, maybe he needs to get back into the Bible and be a good teammate, so to speak. But A.J. Brown, it's interesting. I mean, like somebody said, A.J.'s not going anywhere. I think it was Seth Joyner. The Philadelphia Eagles ain't going anywhere. So they're stuck with each other, whether A.J. Brown likes it or not. And hence the drama and the diva tab there for the wide receiver. All right, let's go over to the rookie report. I mentioned Ashton Jeanty with the big game last week, reverting back to his upward stance. It resulted in 138 rushing yards for the rookie out of Boise State, the number 6 overall pick. And he now leads all rookies with 282 rushing yards. Quinshon Judkins, the Cleveland Browns rookie running back, has 237. And then you saw Cam Scatterbo just barreling over runners. I don't know how long, a guy like Scatterbo lasts in the NFL with all the big hits, extra hits. I don't want to call them unnecessary hits because he is a running back, but he has 181 rushing yards, and his role is going to continue to grow there for Big Blue. Quarterbacks, Cam Ward, we've seen Dylan Gabriel get in spot action, but Cam Ward, really the only full-time rookie, and he's completing just 51% of his passes for 614 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And if you listen to Cam Ward, he's ass right now. That's his words, not mine. The Titans are ass. He's ass. They got to play better, and not exactly a ringing endorsement from your rookie quarterback in terms of being a franchise role model. But that's what Cam Ward said. Those weren't my words, so don't get it twisted. At wide receiver, this Emeka Egbuka, clearly the most impressive looking rookie. He's got a touchdown in all 4 games, 4 touchdowns on the season, 282 receiving yards. And Tetiora McMillan from Carolina, not too far behind him with 278 receiving yards. However, he has yet to find pay dirt. Tyler Warren, I think, could give Egbuka a run for his money in terms of the rookie of the year balloting. 263 receiving yards for that Tyler Warren out of Penn State. And he has not had a receiving touchdown, but you saw him run the Wildcat there last year and rumbling, bumbling, stumbling on the Wildcat down there, finding the end zone for a touchdown. And I got to give a shout out to Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green. What was he, a 5th-round pick? A lot of people were scared off by the size. I think he had over 110 catches in college at Bowling Green his senior season, but he has 17 for $160 in terms of rookie wide receivers. And on the defensive side, a couple guys who stand out to me: Carson Schlesinger, Cleveland Browns starting linebacker, 31 tackles, leads all rookies. And Xavier Watts, we talked about the rookie safety duo of Billy Bowman and Xavier Watts. Just great draft picks there by Terry Fontenot in Atlanta. Watts has 2 interceptions to lead all rookies. I know Abdul Carter had a half a sack, I think, in week 1. He had 8 quarterback pressures last week and 5 QB hits, but Abdul Carter still searching for his first career sack. I don't think any rookie has actually registered a sack yet, based on a glance that I took. But that is your NFL rookie report. Now, I also went over to the Next Gen Stats, courtesy of NFL.com, and we had Chad Ryder on a couple weeks ago, who does great work at NFL.com. But the Next Gen Stats have enlightened us in terms of recording the fastest players in-game speed. And this is that catapult technology that, could eventually replace the 40-yard dash time at the combine. I do believe that is coming relatively soon in terms of technology infiltrating the combine. I think the 40-yard dash is a little bit outdated, and you could be seeing scouts and evaluators switch over to the catapult speed, miles per hour. And in terms of in-game speed, can you guess who it is? Over there, up there, Jersey native, running back Jonathan Taylor, the big bruising running back in Indianapolis, pairing with Indiana Jones, that 1-2 punch. Jonathan Taylor actually recorded a 22.38 miles per hour reception back in week 2, and he's the fastest timed player in the National Football League through the first month of the season. Jahmyr Gibbs, right behind him from Detroit, hit 22.3 miles per hour in week 2 on a 42-yard touchdown run. Some others here that are up there: Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver from Jacksonville, coming in at 22.13. Nashawn Wright, the cornerback out of Chicago, had a 74-yard interception in week 1. He registered 21.66 miles per hour. Tyquan Thornton, we always knew he had the speed, finally starting to make plays now for the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a 21.48 mile per hour kickoff return. DK Metcalf coming in at 21.25. Derrick Henry at 21.07. D. Eskridge, the wide receiver out of Miami on special teams, had a 21 miles per hour, as did Luther Burden from the Bears. And to round out your top 10 is a guy who we just talked about at the top of the show, somebody who claimed to be the fastest player in the NFL, yet Cheetah, Tyreek Hill, had the 10th fastest mark at 20 miles per hour, 20.97 to be exact, and that came in week 2. So that's a look at your 10 fastest players. Malik Neighbors came in at 11, Isaiah Rodgers at 12 in terms of fastest players in game speed in the National Football League. For those of you who were curious, I thought it was a pretty interesting exercise there to get through. And this is the All Access Football Daily Show. We are live, and sometimes we got to do things on the fly, like juice up the laptop over here and make sure we're all charged up to get through the end of the show. Coming up in about 7 minutes, we have Evan Wilsmore, the director of personnel from the Vegas Hawks, just 21 years old. The unbelievable backstory. He's currently a student at LSU. He's done some great things. I've had a chance to scout with him out in the field at some of the free agent camps. So we'll chop it up with Evan Wilsmore in a little bit. I do have some news and notes from the Canadian Football League, who is entering the stretch run, the final stretch of the season here up north of the border. And it's getting interesting because this is a wide open league. Okay. And this week, we've got Calgary 8-6 at BC 8-7. But the big news here is what happened last week. And so Zach Collaros, the quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, returned, and they just pummeled Hamilton, who has one of the best records in the CFL. Hamilton 9-6 now, Winnipeg at 8-7. But this was a 40-3 beatdown, courtesy of Zach Collaros, who missed the last 2 games. He threw for 367 passing yards, while his backup, Chris Stredler, remember him, a little stint in the NFL, he added 3 rushing touchdowns last week during that blowout win over Hamilton. So Winnipeg, who's been to, 5 Grey Cups in the last 6 years, winning 2 of them, they are getting hot at the right time, those Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Also, Montreal getting hot when it matters. And I really felt like before Davis Alexander, and I think Davis Alexander is probably the best quarterback from what I've seen in the Canadian Football League, but he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. I think, he finally came back. He was out for most of the season, but Montreal beating Calgary, who a lot of people felt were the best team in the Canadian Football League, but they beat them quite handily, 38-20. Montreal now 8-7, Calgary 8-6. But Davis Alexander, in his return, his first start since July 17th, he had 350 passing yards and a touchdown. He's only started 5 games, but he has 1,400 passing yards, completing 72.6% of his passes and 108-1 rating. They're undefeated when Davis Alexander starts, 5-0. And so as long as he remains upright, Montreal, I think, is going to be the team to beat here. Now, dating back to last season, a little bit of history here. Davis Alexander now has won all 9 starts of his career. He started 9 games, and he's won them all. That's unbelievable. And he just broke Canadian Football League Hall of Famer Danny McManus, good friend of the show. Shout out to Coach if he's watching. Danny McManus started his career 8-0. And I'll tell you what, Davis Alexander, 9-0 for his career. He has yet to lose a game that he has started in the Canadian Football League. So there you go. Montreal now has won 3 straight. Of course, they won the Grey Cup back in 2023. And I think right now they're going to be my odds-on favorite to win the Grey Cup as it stands today. Now, the Calgary Stampeders, they made a little bit of a trade with the Ottawa Red Blacks. The Red Blacks are out of it. I'm hearing they're going to clean house maybe in the front office. There could be some turnover there. We'll see who turns up. You never know. But they acquired, the Calgary Stampeders they acquired Lorenzo Malden IV. You may remember him back from 2015. He was a 3rd-round pick for the New York Jets coming out of Louisville. I remember quite clearly, actually. He was a pretty damn good player coming out of Louisville back in 2015. He's still hanging out up north in the in the Canadian Football League. He did run into a back injury during his NFL career, has since rebounded, and he gets dealt from Ottawa to Calgary for the playoff hunt. So we'll see what kind of an impact Lorenzo Malden IV will have for those Calgary Stampeders, who are led by Vernon Adams. And Calgary will actually play BC, as I alluded. Calgary 8-6, BC 8-7. Some really good games, of course. Hamilton now 9-6 will visit Toronto 5-10. Saskatchewan 10-4 will visit Ottawa 4-10. So those are your updates for the Canadian Football League. All right. We're going to do a quick giveaway before Evan Wilsmore pops on the show, okay? Couple rules here to win the prizes, all right? Our good friend Neil Stratton just sent me a box of value picks. His new book, The Drama, Decisions, and Details Behind 8 Selections of the 2016 NFL Draft. It's the 10-year anniversary of the 2016 NFL Draft, and Neil did a wonderful job. He interviewed over 100 personnel, scouts, GMs that were involved in the 2016 NFL Draft and brings you behind the scenes of what goes on in the war room. And this has endorsements by George Patton, John Spytek, Les Snead, Mike Martin. If you are a football fan, if you're an NFL Draft fan, you need to pick up value picks. Now, this is available on Amazon for about $15, okay? We're going to include this as part of our giveaway today, okay? We have a bunch of books we're going to give away. We're also going to give you a pack of Canadips, which goes for about $30, I would say. Check them out, Canadips, new sponsor of the show. Head over to the website. These go for about $30, maybe more. Okay, we're going to also include those. Here's how you win it. Okay, go over to allaccessfootball.com, subscribe to the membership. It's $30, but with our promo code RICVIP, you're going to cut that down to $20 for the year. Okay, can you spare me 2 quarters a day? Because it'll come out to 53 cents a day if you subscribe to All Access Football. So for $20, you're going to get the annual subscription, all of our insider content, the 2026 NFL Draft Bible. We're going to include value picks for free and a pack of Canadips. All right. So you're going to get about a $75 value for $20. Here's what you got to do. Subscribe at allaccessfootball.com, like the show, share the show, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Very easy. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe on the show. So like the show, share the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to All Access Football. For $20, you're going to get the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, over 500 scouting reports, access to all of our insider content, the free book Value Picks, courtesy of Neil Stratton, and a free pack of Canadips, courtesy of our new sponsor. So I got more deals than Crazy Eddie over here. We appreciate all the love and support. And if you're not interested, if you can smash that like button, share it, and subscribe it, we appreciate that anyway. All right, we're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, Evan Wilsmore, Director of Player Personnel for the Vegas Nighthawks of the Indoor Football League, the world champions, will join us next. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day Circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home if you enter our promo code RICVIP. You'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off. Rain, sleet, hail, snow, the show must go on. For Ric Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. All right, we're back at it again. All right, seeing the place to be. Ric Serritella here on this Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. It's our 30th episode of the All Access Football Show as we wind down the month of September, our 5th week of programming here. You're home for real football talk. And I tell you, we get it all in here, NFL, Canadian Football League, around the football universe. And next up, we're going to talk indoor football league, which I believe there's a lot of indoor football leagues out there, but the indoor football league, the IFL, I believe is the premier indoor football league on the entire planet. And I'm excited for our next guest. He's somebody I've had a chance to chop it up with on the scouting trails. He's a fixture at these free agent camp workouts. He's scouting the country, combing it with a fine-tooth comb, always looking for talent. Of course, he's a young phenom in the scouting community, currently a student at LSU, also a co-host at one of my favorite shows, the Markcast, which brings you inside the United Football League. We'll talk about that as the UFL draft is coming up in October. Currently, the director of personnel for the world champion Vegas Nighthawks. He joins the show, making his all-access football debut. It's Evan Wilsmore. How you doing, Evan?
Good, Rick. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the introduction, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to chopping it up with you, man. It's been a while since we had a talk, and especially catching up on the air here. So let's just start off about your involvement with the Vegas Nighthawks. You've been there. You were the assistant director of player personnel, now the director, I believe, and a lot of good players on that roster. So tell us a little bit more about the league, your background, how you got involved with the team for the listening audience at home.
Yeah, man. I've been doing this for 2 years now. I got hired in Vegas in 2023. Really an interesting story, as to how I got involved with that. I really wasn't interested in the indoor football league. I didn't know much about it, but I knew I wanted to break into personnel eventually, and I felt like, 2 years ago was the time to do that. Kind of just went around like any young person does, sending messages and, seeing if anybody wanted to take a chance, kind of putting the resume out there. And Mike Davis, head coach and general manager over in Vegas, previously with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, took a chance on me, brought me in at 19 years old, and grateful for him to this day. He's been a pleasure to work with, and, we've obviously done some really good things over in Vegas in the past 2 years.
Yeah, no, I love it. You are padding the resume, my man, because you guys come off of that thrilling championship game, 64-61 over the Green Bay Blizzard. And this one had some drama to it. I mean, it ended with a goal line stuff to end the game. I mean, what a way to walk it off. And, man, what an exciting game. Take us through that one for us.
Yeah, man, it was a crazy game. I think anybody who watched that, if you're a fan of offensive football, I'm sure you appreciated that game. If you're a fan of defensive football, well, you probably appreciated the last play. Yeah, definitely a lot of emotions. I was fairly certain we were going to lose. That tush push play has a pretty high success rate. But I was on the opposite side of the end zone watching it happen, and immediately when Green Bay snapped it, I saw Max Miler, their quarterback, kind of bobbled the snap, and from that moment on, I knew that we had at least a chance. We had subbed in our 335-pound offensive lineman, Moses Mallory from Montana, who's the heaviest player on our team, and he's the one who got the initial push, and everybody kind of came around from there on both sides and made the play, made it happen. I still don't know if we should have won. In the moment, I couldn't actually believe that, we got the stop. I thought they would have, crossed the plane somehow, and it went to review, and, some guys knew it, some guys didn't. We were all kind of nervous, and then they said the call was upheld, and from there, man, it was just a party. Everybody ran onto the field, and it was kind of a blur from there.
Yeah, well deserved, because I know you worked hard during the offseason to assemble the roster, and you had a pretty good quarterback yourself in Jayden de Laura, who won the MVP in that game with 131 passing yards, 70 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, of course, from Washington State. Also, Antonio Wimbush, pretty good player. He had 70 rushing, 45 receiving, and 3 touchdowns in that championship game. Talk a little bit about the process. Like, how do you find these guys, and where do you go, and how do you assemble a roster in the Indoor Football League, Evan?
Yeah, man, it's a good question. Well, obviously, our league has a lot of diversity. If you watch our games, you look at the rosters, you're interested in personnel. We've got guys from here, there, and everywhere. So my job is to make sure that we leave no stone unturned. That's my personal policy. So one day you'll maybe be looking at a guy, for example, Jayden de Laura, right, who was a starting quarterback in the Power 4. Very rare to have a guy of that pedigree in our league, and I'm extremely happy that we got the chance to work with him last year, and he will be coming back to play for us next year. Or some days it might be on the complete other end of the spectrum, like just yesterday. This is a real-world example. I was looking at a D3 receiver who was averaging like 32 yards a catch a couple seasons ago. And that's just what I love about it. You kind of have to look everywhere. You have to know, obviously, all the schools, et cetera, just like any scout should. But I think there's a pretty significant communication component in this recruiting process where, finding the players becomes pretty easy. Finding the guys that, aren't in the NFL or maybe went to a rookie mini camp or, spent some time up in the CFL. But talking to these guys and making sure, like, hey, is this something that you'd actually want to do? That's where, your skills really come in handy because the IFL isn't going to be for everybody, right? It's not about making money. It's about getting film and continuing your career. And that's what guys have to understand. So it's a diverse process, man. Like you said in the intro, going to free agent camps, going to some of the smaller all-star games like the College Gridiron Showcase and the Tropical Bowl. We're able to pull a lot of guys from that. So that's the main recipe. But like I said, man, there's many layers to it. And I think it definitely has its quirks compared to, scouting in some of these other leagues.
A great insight here from Evan Wilsmore, Director of Player Personnel for the Vegas Nighthawks, the champions of the Indoor Football League. And it is a relationship business, Evan. And that's what I love about you, is because you're constantly working the phone lines. And even if it's not guys on your own Indoor Football League team, you're always constantly helping out the free agent community. You've had quite a few players that you've helped transition, get into the Canadian Football League. You got a lot of contacts up north, a lot of NFL contacts, but talk a little bit more about some of the rules, because you mentioned, I think there is a little bit of a stigma when you hear indoor football, and you said it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you tune in and watch it, it's an exciting brand, up and down, nonstop action, clearly a shorter field, but just give the listeners a little bit more details about some of the rules, the style of play, what they can expect to see when they tune into an indoor football league game.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, the general gist of it, there's indoor football and then there's arena football. And it's important to, kind of distinguish those two because they are two different things. A lot of people use the words interchangeably, which I think is fine. Visually they look the same. But indoor football, you have to think as being, really just like an NCAA game on a shorter field. If something, is going on over in the Arena Football League or AF1, whatever it is now, that's definitely a bit of a different brand of football with the rebound nets and things like that. I'll stick to IFL here for the sake of time. Biggest things you need to know. It's a 50 by 28 yard field, excluding the end zones. The end zones are 8 yards. That brings it out to 66 yards. So that's obviously the thing that people, they see first is, wow, this field is really small. And what else, man? I mean, we've got the deuce is a fun rule in the IFL. When on a kickoff, if the ball goes through the uprights, it's 2 points. And so I've always thought that was fun. Personnel-wise, it's 25-man rosters, 8v8 football. We have some similarities to the CFL, the high motion with the receivers before the snap. Those are the main things I think people need to know, man. I mean, I could go over the whole rule book with you here, but again, for time's sake, I won't do that. But it's definitely a quirky game, and I've enjoyed it. I've always preferred, I guess, offensive football in my life, and obviously in the IFL and in some of these other leagues, it tends to be very high scoring. Like even if you have a good defense, if you're getting held to under 30 points a game, that's really impressive. Whereas in any other league, that would be a bad day. So, man, those are just some of the things I can think about off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, it's great overall general perspective, because we got a lot of audience members probably never tuned into a game. We're trying to introduce them to it and grow the game, right? That's what we do here. And spoken like a true offensive lineman, offensive minded. I know you used to play O-line back in the day, and you also have your finger on the pulse when it comes to the entire alternate football landscape. You're somebody here. I mentioned a co-host at the Marcast with our good friend Reed Johnson, and you guys cover mainly, I think last year was the United Football League, but in years past, I know you've been all over the Canadian Football League, the XFL, the USFL. Talk a little bit about your affinity and love for the alternate football landscape.
Yeah, man. Those leagues are really what got me involved, in football to the level that I'm in today. I had always been, I shouldn't say always, but obviously I started off as a fan of the NFL and college football, like a lot of people do. And then once I started watching, particularly it was the XFL in 2020, I had kind of got my feet wet with the AAF the year before in 2019. But it was really that XFL season in 2020 with PJ Walker and all those guys, that really kind of got me involved in this scene. And I kind of found out, through the years that there was a little community of people who kind of knew more stuff about this. And immediately I knew that was something I wanted to be a part of. And again, I always had a plan to work in player personnel to some capacity, but I knew that, a lot of guys who do that kind of start off somewhere else. So the way I did that was kind of getting involved in media, particularly covering these other leagues and showing that I actually knew something and had something to say about them. I could talk about all the players and coaches and teams and, again, things that maybe people, weren't as educated on. So Reed, as you mentioned, over there with his podcast, he gave me, a great opportunity a couple times to come on, and we would, go over the XFL draft and the UFL draft. And we used to do, some CFL, like weekly recap stuff. We did that, I think, 2 years ago. So yeah, man, that's all been a blast. I love just sitting here and talking about football. I mean, again, if we had more time, I could talk your ear off, about the college games this past weekend and the NFL games on Sunday. But yeah, man, I love it. And again, I would encourage anybody, who's in my position, right, who's young and is trying to get involved, like, do your best not to say no. What would be my advice? Like if there's an opportunity that comes up that seems interesting, even if it's not something that you want to do long-term, everybody has to find their way to break in and to network and to make connections. And you're not going to do that if you just, try and fast forward multiple years and jump straight to the good stuff. Like I've learned, in the past 2 years on this job that there was a lot of things that I had to learn and pick up. And I kind of went into it riding the high horse, I guess. But, Mike in Vegas, he kind of slowed me down and said, listen, man, we got a lot more to do and figure out. And, again, over the years, I feel like I've gotten better each and every day. But yeah, man, started doing all that, love all these leagues, the UFL, the CFL. Again, now we're pulling players from some of these leagues. So it's even that much more important that I follow them along. But yeah, man, no, media is great. I've loved doing that, and was a great segue into what I do now. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing background that you have. I don't know where you find the team. Still a student at LSU, co-host of the Marcast show. Make sure you check out the Marcast on YouTube. That's my favorite YouTube channel, hands down. And then also currently your role with the Vegas Nighthawks. Clearly not much time for sleep there, Evan. You've given a lot of great advice to any young person who wants to follow your career path. I mean, at 21 years old, I hadn't done any of the stuff that you've accomplished, but I guess on your way out the door, parting shot, piece of advice, anything you want to let the listening audience know. And we will have you back to talk more football. I can promise you that. But parting shot on your way out the door.
Yeah, man. Just continuing with what I said earlier, always be open at this age to advice. And I would try and get out, to some of these events just to network. Like, even if you're not, with a team or necessarily scouting, like, I know a lot of kids here that have gone to like the Senior Bowl, for example, not even really to look at the players, but just kind of to work the room and shake hands with some of the higher ups in the industry. Any kind of chance that you get to go out at the personnel symposium, I think it was in Nashville this year.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for my schedule to line up to go to that. It'll happen eventually, I'm sure, but that's another good opportunity, I think, to again, kind of get your feet wet and to see how people operate. Really just, getting out in person, again, getting out on that trail like we've talked about, and kind of seeing it for yourself, because that's where a lot of the business is done. I mean, you'll go to these events, you'll see, agents talking to personnel guys like myself. You'll see coaches kind of doing their own thing. Everybody kind of plays their own little role. And it's things like that you don't really figure out unless, again, you take the time to go see it yourself. So my advice to somebody, again, in my position, who's young, wants to get involved, just get out as much as you can. Don't be afraid to ask questions. But at the same time, if somebody's got advice for you, if they think that, maybe you need to do this and there's a path to it, really be open to anything. Again, you're too young to be shutting yourself off to too much. So.
Yeah, great advice, and we appreciate the time. I know you're a busy man. You got schoolwork and personnel work and media obligations, so we appreciate the time, Evan. I'm sure we will have you back on, and hopefully we can talk some college football and NFL with you. We always love the perspective and time, man.
Absolutely, man. I would love to do that. So, well, you know where to find me.
No, and I'm sure I'll see you on the scouting trails along the All-Star game circuit as well, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rick.
Absolutely. There he is. Evan Wilsmore, good friend of the show. Good to get that perspective because we do have a lot of young aspiring scouts who do tune into the show. We've got the NFL Draft Bible scouting department who are all relatively young for the most part. Also, just getting out there, networking. And we always say you got to get your foot in the building, get your foot inside the facility. It doesn't matter. Look at Joe Shane. He was in selling tickets when he first started, I think back, Dan Morgan, one of those guys. I mean, just get in the building, network. I always tell aspiring scouts, surround yourself with the people, places, and things you want to be. If you want to be a scout, go down there to the Senior Bowl, go down there to these all-star games, go out to the combine. The personnel symposium was talk about blowing up. I mean, I went there last year, 2 years ago, and it was just a bunch of guys standing around the room, a couple dozen guys. This year, over 1,100 personnel from the NFL, college football. Really a great event there if you want to get involved in the scouting industry. All right. An hour of power. I mean, it just flies by, doesn't it? Each and every day. This was our 30th episode. Before we put a ribbon on the show, just to recap our giveaway with your All Access Football annual subscription, which is listed at $30, but if you use the promo code RICVIP, you get it down to $20. And if you subscribe today, we're going to throw in Value Picks, which is a $15 value over on Amazon by our good friend Neil Stratton. The 10-year anniversary, he conducted over 100 interviews with scouts, general managers, front office personnel, executives. If you want to know how the sausage is made, Neil does a great job of peeling back the onion and taking you inside the war room of how it really goes down. And he takes you behind the scenes of 8 selections from that 2016 NFL draft. We've been doing it since 2002, so these drafts tend to blend into each other, but we're going to throw in the Value Picks book. All right, we're going to throw in a free pack of Canadips courtesy of our new sponsor. Go check them out, canadips.com. And these go for about $30 a pop. This is $15 a pop. We're going to give away a $75 value for $20. Comes out to 2 quarters a day, right? If you can spare 2 quarters a day, you unlock the magic. Get the All Access Football Insider access, all of our premium content, the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, over 500 scouting reports, plus value picks, plus the can of dips. I got more deals than Crazy Eddie, and we're going to start introducing you some more sponsors here throughout the show as we wrap up our first month of programming. Unbelievable. September 30th. The month of September is in the books. Halloween's right around the corner. We'll be spooky-ooky with it tomorrow on October 1st, and we've got some great guests lined up for you throughout the week. Of course, tomorrow's Wednesday, which means the legendary Howard Balzer, 50 years of covering the NFL, will join us. We'll get into some Pro Football Hall of Fame debate. We'll preview the Thursday night football affair if we have time. We also have on Thursday, we've got our Bears, residential Bears insider coming on the show. I had a list here somewhere, but we've got a lot of great guests. Ben Devine making his All Access Football debut. Bears Insider. Follow him on Twitter at Ben Devine. Jason B. Hirschborn, who publishes The Leap over on Substack. He's going to give us some insight on the Packers, both the Bears and Packers on a bye week, so we'll get caught up with those guys. Football Friday affair with Jason B. Hirschborn. Of course, Saturday is the college football pregame show with our residential scout, Russell Landy. And Sunday is the NFL Around the League Pick'em. And we are now standing strong at, after 4 weeks of action, picking against the spread. We are now 38-26 against the spread, holding strong, 12 games above 500. So we'll try to do better this week. And that about does it for the All Access Football Daily Show today. Another hour of power in the books. For Evan Wilsmore, we thank him so much, our special guest director of player personnel for the Indoor Football League champion Vegas Nighthawks. I was Ric Serritella. This is your home for real football talk, and we'll see you 10 a.m. tomorrow, bright and early, everybody. So buckle up, hunker down, enjoy the day, and we appreciate all the love and support. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world-famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world-famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Ric Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody.
watching All Access Football.